Okay, and then we also have some highlights from Twitter from Nuria, and these are some stats, some very important stats. On the left, you'll see some stats just for brands and what Twitter is seeing on brands. At least 81% of Twitter users follow at least one brand on Twitter. And 60% of brand followers have purchased something they have learned about on Twitter. And 66% of users who have tweeted at a brand have made some sort of purchase. And 73% of those users who have retweeted a brand have also made a purchase. And so I think that speaks really highly of the opportunity that's available, not only now, but going forward for social TV. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the behavior of U.S. Hispanics engaging with social TV. And 73% of them like reading what others are tweeting about on TV. 63% like to tweet their thoughts about what they see on TV. 59% have discovered or learned about a TV show on Twitter. And 58% tweet to vote or enter a contest while watching on TV. So bringing those two things together really creates a great opportunity for brands to interact with those people through Spanish language TV shows. And Nuria, do you want to speak a little bit more about?
Sure, I'll add a couple of things. So this research was based on research that we conducted with a third-party company. So we surveyed 1,000 Hispanic users, 1,000 Hispanic users who tell us that they tweet on a weekly basis. So these are some of our most active users. Can you hear me okay? Sorry.
That one might be louder.
All right, so, sure. So.
Yeah. To the U.S. market, I don't know if you have those comparisons.
So these numbers tend to be typically higher than the U.S. general market, especially when we look at access of Twitter on a mobile device. So for example, users told us that 81% access Twitter on a mobile device versus 76% of the general market. So we see higher engagement on mobile, we see greater levels of activity. We also see greater levels of activity when it comes to Spanish language tweets. There's tend to be just a greater kind of consistency of volume throughout the day when we compare that to English language tweets. So like I mentioned, this research was done a couple of months ago, 1,000 Hispanic users tweeting on a weekly basis. We looked at users across different levels of acculturation, so low, medium, high, and we determined that with a couple of different criteria, including language spoken at home, years lived in the U.S., and a couple of other questions that we asked to measure levels of acculturation. So just to give this a little bit of context.
Sure.
Okay. Always, in the presentations that I've heard yesterday and today, they say that women are the ones that do the most. That women are, why? Is there like a reason why?
I mean, doing an unofficial, unscientific study of the audience with my eyes, it's mostly women in the room, so I might put it to them why they tend to tweet more. But yeah, perhaps it's the power of the Latina. I'm not. I'm not sure. Do you have any stats on that, Nuria? Why? What the reasoning behind that is?
So we have the data. We can break down the data, male versus female. We haven't done that in this case, so I can't speak to that specifically for this market. But I think there could be some interesting observations to be made. Usually, women love to be social and chatty, like what you said. Totally unscientific. I don't have stats to back that up, but we can certainly look at the data in that way.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's a dangerous question, too. Okay, so we have some questions that we actually went over in our prior conversations. So we're going to go through that, and that's really going to facilitate the conversations. Like I said, as we go through, if you guys could tweet your questions to @BodenPR, Sarah and Bill will be curating them and putting them into the iPad so that I can then follow up with those at the end of the panel. Once we get through the questions. I think these questions will get you guys thinking as well, too. So the first one is, to the panel is, what social media platforms are being used for social TV? Everyone hears about Twitter, but what other platforms have you guys tested? What are you using? David, if you'd like to answer that first.
Sure, and just to pull back again, the way I, and I think many would perhaps define social TV, and for the purpose of what we're talking about right here, is basically the creation of social-based content integrated into either broadcast, linear TV, or a video experience, okay? So the point of that being is that we're actually leveraging platforms based on where our audiences are spending their time and where they choose to create content. So as you saw in some of the videos, ours as well as Telemundos, were questions that were asked to the stars. A year and a half ago, it was based on Twitter. Today, there are Instagram video questions to the stars on the red carpet. During Nuestra Vida Latina, after girls get eliminated, there's a 6-second Vine confessional. Why 6 seconds? It's tight, it's sweet. People don't have the attention span to sit there and listen to 30 seconds of a sob story. They can on a longer form venue on .com perhaps, but you have to use platforms that A, your audience is actually spending their time on, and that B, allow you to create interesting stories both within the broadcast, because that's what we're talking about within social TV, or on an owned and operated property like your .com app, etc.
In our case, again going back to the topic about taking the word social out, I'm not consider myself the social person of Telemundo. I'm another programmer that my responsibility is to make sure that there's social representation of the prime time, the news, the sports, the specials, the reality shows on as many platforms as possible. And as a matter of fact, right now we are in regular web, app, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, we do Vine, we do Instagram. So we have to continuously test different platforms that are coming, just to see what resonates with the audience. So it's more like a programming strategy rather than just distribution. And again, to David's point, every 3 months we have a new platform. The team got excited. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. We did Pinterest. We had done Kik. We haven't done a Snapchat yet. And if they allow, probably we'll do some WhatsApp too. But the thing is, we have to test. But I always go back to the numbers, where the Hispanic market is. And realistically, there are 2 main platforms where the market is our colleagues at Twitter and in Facebook, and actually Instagram and Vine. So most of our efforts, particularly when we are partnering with brands, are around those, because those are the ones that are going to give us enough reach to satisfy that relationship between the brand and the consumer.
Just really quickly, and then or you can obviously jump in from the Twitter perspective. Bora and I promised each other that we wouldn't just talk about here are the successes, let's raise our flags, but actually talk about some of the challenges. And what happens, right, as he said, this new platform comes along, there's all this press about it, every brand says, I want to be on Snapchat now, et cetera. And we did actually we did try something with Snapchat when they extended it to stories so that it wouldn't go away, right away. And we were very excited about it. We had a great partner that was working with us, really creative, interesting idea, but it just didn't have any scale whatsoever because not enough people were on the platform. You can't just throw it out there. You need to promote it, whether that's on network, on social, on .com. So there's a lot that goes into promoting that platform. When you don't have that scale, it's nice and you always have to experiment, but you have to go back to what's the core, where the core audience is.
So I'll speak on behalf of Twitter. So when you talk about scale and really going to where the audiences are, I think that's something that we've been really looking at closely, looking at the Hispanic market on Twitter. We see that about 11.7 million Hispanics are on Twitter. So that represents about 24% of the user base. So an incredible number of Hispanics on Twitter, and like you saw some of the stats, very active on Twitter as well. And to Borja's point as well, it's not just about what's cool and what's new, but is it working? Is it actually driving viewers to your show? Is it actually engaging your viewers with the content that you're presenting on screen? And if you're a brand, is it actually increasing brand favorability? Are you seeing an increase in sales lift? So those are the things that now we're moving towards to help our advertisers and our network partners really understand. So it's great, people are on the platform, they're engaging while they're watching TV, but what does that mean and what's the impact that we're seeing? So we recently conducted a study with Fox and the ARF that actually show that 90%, you heard some of the stats earlier, 90% of users exposed to a TV-related tweet take an action. And an action means they actually, went and watched some TV-related content, either on screen or online. They shared or searched for TV-related content, again, on Twitter or off of Twitter. So we saw those responses from a survey recently completed. We also saw that the correlation, not the correlation, but we saw that a lot of folks also let us know that seeing a TV-related tweet led them to actually change the channel and watch a TV show that they've never seen before, or resume watching a show that they had previously watched and then stopped seeing. So it's about showing the results as well.
And Borja, you brought up a great point in one of our conversations of, I think it was you, that if you're tweeting about a TV show, it's great for the networks because then you have the inability to actually use the remote to switch the channel, right? So I don't know if that's, I think that really illustrates your point also of social TV is really the new TV. It's not, you can't imagine a time without a remote. You wouldn't use your TV without a remote. And we're getting to the point where you're not going to use TV without some sort of social media.
Yeah, but the important point is besides having only two hands, and having to be able to, which, is we are lucky to have two. It's basically for companies like our companies to have the consumer engage on a conversation around the programming that they are being exposed on TV. Is amazing because you are becoming the bodyguard of the rating. You are securing that person is going to be engaged with that show, and they are not going to be doing, other type of communication about other things. So for us, it's important to make sure that the whole lineup of programming, from 6 a.m. all the way to 6 a.m. again, it has some sort of like a program associated that will help us to engage the audience that we already have.
All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next question, which is how can brands, and this leads right into from the previous question, how can brands best take advantage of each social media platform when considering social TV, especially in conjunction with a network? David, if you want to open it up.
Sure. I think to answer the question, first up to kind of take the step back of where are we in sort of the learning curve of not just social media, but social TV. And as I said, let me just take a poll. How many people, if you had to get on the mic right now to define what social TV is, raise their hand and say, I'm happy to do it right now.
Oh my God.
Sorry? How confident are you in the ability to describe what social TV is? Okay. That's it. That's it. Everybody could sort of have. So now imagine that as a network on the phone with your sales team, on the phone with agencies, on the phone then with the client, and maybe Twitter, Facebook, somebody else involved in that conversation. There's so much education that needs to happen across the board, both within the networks themselves, the discussions at the agencies, and often the agency that's actually doing the social media is not in the discussion in some cases that you're having with a traditional television network buyer or even a digital buyer. So the first thing that you have to do is actually make sure that people understand what you're talking about. So with respect to the which platforms, it depends on which are going to create a great content experience. And sort of, I'll take an example. Last year for the Latin Grammys, we had a brand, one of the wireless brands, who, essentially we had the idea of let's allow that brand to take over Univision's social media team during the award show. So the brand was able to use a hashtag to say, here fans, tell us what content you want Univision's social media team to go capture. You want to see the highest heels on the red carpet? Great. You want to see the messiest dressing room? You want to see, what the after party looks like before everyone arrives? We'll do that. The best medium for that happened to be Twitter because it was real time. However, what seeded a lot of the engagement around that early on was Facebook. We did a lot of posts to tell people that they had this opportunity, all with the brand being mentioned. So we got tremendous reach, again, tremendous engagement via Facebook, leading into a Twitter integration. We also obviously posted pictures on Instagram, which fed back into a social media wall on .com, which then ultimately were brought onto the television screen and some of those social TV integrations. So we start with what medium is going to create the best story for the audience, and then how do you bring your brand into that point throughout. It's not about pushing the brand message, it's how can the brand be the facilitator, the catalyst for giving fans what they want in the middle of this content experience.
I think that we all understand that 4 years ago we were talking about if social media has a value or it doesn't have a value. You know, that was in this same conference. I believe it wasn't here, it was in LA. And here we are 4 years later talking about how brands are doing it, how media companies we are doing it, and how companies that they are social media players are successfully introducing their products to the Hispanic market. In our case, it's simple. In the world of not having enough funding or resources, be smart. You know, there are two people or two entities that they are constantly experimenting with this and that they can give you advice. The social media companies and the media companies that we spend a lot of money every year, particularly to prove our bosses that social media has a value and that we are monetizing it. So the first step, you know, if you're a brand, come to, talk to your agency, and we will be more than welcome to have that conversation with you based on all the programs that we have been executing and in the ones that they've been working well and the ones that they haven't been working that well. But that's pretty much the recommendation that I will give to any brand. You know, in terms of allowing, we do a lot of I wouldn't say consulting, but we have very candid conversations with partners where they come with ideas, and there are some ideas that are amazing that sometimes we don't even can come up with those, but other ideas are so crazy that it's like, hey, one second. If you are an insurance company, I'm not gonna teach you how to sell insurance. We are a programming company, we are a content producer, we are engaging 30 million people at any given point. We had that relationship with them. We feel them. So let us give you the recommendation based on that relationship that we have established with our audience. So that's kind of, this is not considered yet, that's why I don't like to call it social media, because it's dangerous to call it media. Most of the stuff that we do is so customized. Is built for them and their consumers and the relationship that the consumers have with our programming. So that's our take on this.
So one thing that we strongly believe is that TV and Twitter work really well together. So one thing that we talk to our brand advertisers about is taking the message that they're already sharing on TV, so whether it's a 15 or 30-second spot or an integration into one of these shows, and leveraging Twitter to extend that conversation. So starting it with sight, sound, and motion on screen, and then moving that to create a conversation on the platform. So there's a product that they can use called TV conversation targeting, where they can identify users who are talking about a particular TV show. And we recently rolled this out for the Hispanic market. So they're able to reach users tweeting about a show on Univision or on Telemundo, either in English or in Spanish, and they can continue that conversation that they started during the show, either in a TV spot or in an integration.
So I think Borja and David, you both brought up a good point, and that's working with the brands, and often there's some obstacles to overcome because depending on the brands, social media may live in 3 or 4, maybe 5 different places. Maybe the paid socials living in one area, the organic socials living in another area. So from a network perspective, how do you see the best way for brands to work with the networks to come up with a successful social TV campaign or program?
I think that is and I'm gonna sound probably traditional in that sense, but again, we mass media companies, we produce programming, content, and social is being fueled by content. So it's the relationship that you are going to build between, this consumer and this brand, it has, a connective tissue called programming. So everything starts around a programming conversation, a programming that will be a lot of affinity between that content in particular and your target audience. And that's how we develop all the programs. It's okay, Mr. Partner, what type of people you want to target? Female 18 to 49 with this type of habits, this is what they like. Okay, what type of content these people enjoy? What type of experiences these people are trying to be fans or to follow. And based on that is how then we tap one platform or the other, one show or the other. Because one size fits all here is not gonna work. You guys are all very social media savvy, and you know that at the end of the day, the way you are following something is because there is a constant stream of content, and it's a content that is authentic and relevant to you. In the moment that you are following an Instagram account, a Twitter, a Facebook or whatever, and the content become irrelevant to you, just stop following, you stop liking it, you don't follow, period. So that's how we do it, trying to be relevant and taking content as the currency of that relationship.
I agree with everything Bora just said, and I think the other issue is there are two major structural issues that we have to deal with here. The first is the way that media is bought and we interact, which are the upfronts. And you either talk about something within an upfront or you don't, and you figure it out later. And when you figure it out later, usually things get messy. And so right now, if there was a deal, for instance, we're working with dozen plus advertisers for the World Cup coming up this summer, and these deals were struck 18 months ago easily. And I mean, Twitter was nowhere near as popular 18 months ago as it is today. Instagram really wasn't on the map, certainly from a video standpoint, that it is. And now we're having all of these conversations. And they're a little bit of, how do we bolt on social, to this traditional campaign? And we have to pause every time we hear that and say, let's first make sure that we're doing something that integrates well with the overarching campaign, and again, isn't about pushing the message, more about pulling and giving the fans an opportunity to get involved. So the takeaway I would say is, number one, we need to see more social and digital conversations being part of the upfronts. And this year, I think you're going to see more of that, both from us as networks as well as the social networks themselves and a lot of the vendors that are out there playing in the space. And I think the second thing, as a brand, you need to get your agencies together. If you have a brand that's handling your social or multiple parts of your social, you need to get them in the room with us to have that initial conversation, the initial ideation phase, because I can't tell you how many conversations we've had where we're not fighting, but we're passionately arguing about an integration for which, if that social team had been in the room, it would have been a lot more collaborative, it would have been a lot more efficient, and a better result. We've seen brands that have not even involved their social team until after the entire deal was done. And it's more of a missed opportunity than anything. Social used to be cutting room content. It's now core. Okay, it is core to the programming. When we have award shows, it's in the rundown. When we have reality shows, it's in the rundown. This Spirit of America, their morning show, every morning show, social is part of that. So it's definitely not added value from a programming standpoint. It's core. From an advertising standpoint, you guys know the value of it. Believe me, our 30+ million, ever millions that we have touch points, that's very valuable, and some of the most engaged audience that we have, added value isn't an option anymore.
Thank you. Moving on with that, what are some of the common misconceptions about social TV that you guys see from either brands or agencies or just general consumers? Nuria?
So I think, and I'll look at some of the comments that David just made. I think sometimes it's really difficult to get everyone in the room. We talk to PR agencies, we talk to media agencies, creative agencies. We try to get everyone in the room. It's not the responsibility of one group of agencies or one department within a brand. It really is a cross, agency, cross-functional type of effort. If it's going to be pulled off in the right way, I think it really has to be thought of from the very beginning and has to be integral part of every conversation that happens. So I think when brands try to do it and add it to their general campaign, it really doesn't work. So it has to be conversation that happens from the very beginning.
I'd say again, I don't want to spend, it's going back to the definition of it itself and understanding. I think most brands take the approach of social thinking specifically about social on the platforms themselves, whereas the two other major opportunities for social integration are within the owned and operated property, as I said, social media walls, social content alongside a video experience, as well as then the social TV integration onto the television. And that's more of taking fan-generated, user-generated content, a word that seems very old, but it's the same exact thing, let's be realistic, and pulling that content into the main screen. And I think a lot of times the first social conversation is, what are you doing on Twitter? What are you doing on Facebook? And it's actually what are we doing to link what we're doing on Facebook with what we're doing on our owned and operated property, where you're spending millions of digital dollars as well as tens of millions on the live broadcast television. So it's having all three of those part of the conversation as opposed to one platform part of the conversation.
Yeah. For us, some of the challenges sometimes is ourselves, the just so-called social media team at the time, particularly me, like the pushing the marketing team, the promo team. I need to have the hashtag. I need the lower third with the Facebook. Right now, we are concentrating so much on promoting social that sometimes people forget about the content. Having 17 hashtags on your screen or having 17,000 lower thirds saying if you want, it's not going to help if the content is not good. Actually, if you don't put anything, there will be social conversation. That's another thing. And for today, that there's April's Fool's. I always dare my counterparts when they say, "What's the value of social?" It's like, "Do you want me to turn off our social profile for 24 hours?" We will receive a lot of press, believe me. If tomorrow 30 million people wake up and they don't have the La Voz Kids, La Patrona, El Señor de los Cielos content there, they will kill us. So that's the power of social. It's not added value. I'm going back to the added value. I was so. Okay, yeah, I'm so glad, and David and I will have a lot of conversations in the last 3 years about this, because actually, this is something that we had to grow together. For us, since day one, I currently manage 100 people. Those 100 people, they are all social people. And if they are not social, yes. 100 people, yeah. So as you can understand, when you go to every year to do the budgeting for the next year or the long-range plan of the company, and you have to prove that 100 people, they are working there and they are doing something, you have to prove what they do. And what I do, I prove the marketing value that they deliver. And because of putting content on those platforms today, we have 30 million people following us in all across all social platforms, that when we are launching a show like La Voz Kids or El Señor de los Cielos, we can activate to promote. So it has a very strong marketing value. But in addition to that, we've been creating programs as the one that I showcase, El Pulso. I think particularly that was sponsored by Pepsi, where you don't only pull, social dollars, you pull, because of the social program, you create digital dollars and you create TV dollars, because the owner integration to say, hey, if you are not following El Pulso and you don't know what Don Omar is doing right now, go right now to your Twitter account and start tweeting with the official hashtag, that's on air dollars. So we were able to establish a budget for social that is helping us to increase the budget for digital, that is also bringing incremental dollars for TV. And that's the way I maintain those 100 people with, salaries and everything year after year.
And just remember, too, the last point there around when you do something on screen, when you integrate social on screen, so we had Becky G on the red carpet, she was a cover girl, and when you brought her up and we had a lower third with questions for the stars, sponsored by Cover Girl, et cetera, that's airtime. That's very expensive time. So is that a social TV integration? Am I valuing that as social? No, it's an in-show integration, which are very expensive, as you know. The other thing I hear often is, well, why would I integrate into your socials? Why we would just do paid media on our own account. I said, okay, so when brand X, your post comes up and someone's scrolling through, they see your brand, they are going to think commercial. It's the first thing they see when they see your brand. Now, hopefully, you've got some interesting content in there, and maybe they're surprised by that. When they see our posts, the first thing they're thinking is content, access, something that I'm interested in. Oh, wait a minute, there's a brand that was organically integrated in a smart way that's actually providing value to me. So I would argue there's far more value in the brand paying to be integrated within our social post in an organic way that gives back than to say, well, okay, I'll just take my media and do my own paid media separately. It's apples and oranges completely. And then there's programs like Twitter Amplify, and there's other ways, hopefully, that Facebook will work a little more closely with networks. They've had some great press this year on their efforts to grab network dollars, but I think they, like Twitter, recognize that there's a lot of value in working together on these opportunities to promote via social.
And I think you made a point earlier, and there's a question coming in from Twitter that I want to ask and the question is from Karma Free Cooking, and it's, is social TV only done with live events, or other types of produced programming? And I know both of you spoke to that before when we had our private conversation, so I'd like, Borja, do you want to take it? I'd like you guys to speak to that, because I know that's maybe a big misconception that it only happens during these real-time events.
I totally misbehaved, and I sent you a video clip with only 2 minutes, with 3 minutes, and you got 1 minute. So I'm going to talk about that minute. You know, something that we are super excited that it wasn't showcased is we are right now at the point that is not me, not my team creating social or social value. We are about to go for season 2 of El Señor de los Cielos, a very successful novela with Rafael Amaya that we aired last year. So there's a lot of expectation. There were almost 2 million people watching that novela, and they are expecting season 2. Well, what we have done is we have been working directly with the studios. We have been tracing a strategy. We have been sharing the strategy with them, and the same writer, the same director, the same producer, the same cast, Rafa Maya, and the other good-looking people, they have decided to embark in this amazing project that is to create this series of secret chapters that they are going to reach, season 1 with season 2. I love that, because it's not me creating social content for the social platforms. It's Telemundo as an entity, as a company, understanding that there's an expectations for us to give that type of a content to an almost million people that they're already following the Facebook page of El Señor de los Cielos. I believe it's 500,000 people on the Twitter. So there's an expectation, and it's only up to us to produce the content that these people are going to engage with. So that's for me where social is becoming. Again, going back to what I said at the beginning, this is not about social TV, it's about new TV. TV, the way that it used to be, is no longer going to happen. I said in another conference, you don't call it remote control TV. You have a TV with a freaking remote control. That's it. So now social is happening around the programming, and people are going to, they are expecting to have that, and you're not going to take it up from them. It's up to us to develop it in an organic and natural way so people are enjoying it.
I couldn't agree more. I think the question actually speaks to what's the future of social. And I do believe initially there was more social TV around live events, but I'll use the similar example around a novella, right, which is fully scripted content. So we used to do a 5-night-a-week novella strategy where on Monday some of the stars tweet during the novellas. On Tuesday, a snipe question comes up at the bottom lower third. Tweet your answer. On Wednesdays, we actually integrate those answers, into the show to give fans a reward. Ultimately, on Friday, picking the novella fan of the week. So we saw good results in the way that fans integrated and sort of got engaged throughout the course of the week. So now in Lo que la vida me robó, right now, a novella that's airing right now, we actually have, you have the opportunity to follow one of 4 of the main characters through an existing app, not a new dedicated app for the novella, but an existing app. So Uva Deos, you go on, when you open it up, boom, there's an icon that says, are you watching this novella? When you click it, you follow one of those characters. So now take that same 5-night-a-week strategy, except on Tuesday, you're getting the message and a question directly from the character in the show, or the character's answering the question that was asked on the television show, and they're answering it directly to you. And then we'll curate and figure out who are the fans that are actually interacting and answering all of the questions, the behind-the-scenes content, and that's who will become the social fan of the week. So you're sort of moving away from it necessarily being this only a live experience, but sort of a 5-night-a-week, not just during the live 1-hour window, but you could be doing this in the morning. We want to create that story all day so that you can interact with your favorite characters and get content that you want coming to you as opposed to you always searching for it.
And do you see opportunities for brands to be a part of that?
Toyota is the sponsor. Okay. Toyota is the sponsor here, and I'll shoot a link out so that you guys can see it, or I'll tweet it out right after this so you can see how it works.
Okay. Another question, and this, you guys may or may not be able to answer this, coming from Twitter is, from Gabriella, is what percentage of your network's revenue comes actually from digital and social media? Do you guys quantify that? Is it a large portion?
Not enough.
We have PR teams here, and they won't allow us to answer that question.
Hey, I had to try.
No, particularly, I can share that information, but again, I will say something, not enough of the one that I think we're supposed to get because of all the efforts that we do.
Yeah.
And the investment.
Coming from Maddie, what research and data should advertisers and marketers rely on for reaching Hispanics? And maybe, Nuria, you can take this one. I know you guys did that research project recently and launched a new product.
Sure. So we, like I mentioned earlier, we did user research a couple of months ago that we just released, and that really sort of helped drive the creation of this product to help advertisers reach users who are engaged in these conversations, and not only when the show is airing, but we see these conversations happening before, during, and after the show airs, whether that's a live program or an episodical show. So that's the kind of research that we're really leveraging. We're trying to demonstrate that the audience is on Twitter, that they're engaging on Twitter, they're engaging in various languages. They're tweeting in English, they're tweeting in Spanish. But also what we're doing with our advertisers across the board is helping them understand the impact of their investment in Twitter. So whether that's a brand lift study or a sales lift study, we want to show them that their actions and their engagement with the platform is really leading to an increase in brand favorability, or it's actually translating into sales online or offline as well. So we have a couple of partners that we work with to demonstrate that effort.
Cool. And another more specific question is about Twitter Mirror. Who developed that product, if you can share? And then also, how do brands take advantage of that? Or how can brands take advantage of that?
Sure. Not too familiar with the history of the Twitter Mirror, but brands do, and I'll let these folks speak to that as well, but brands are able to take part in TV shows, and usually this is reserved for live programming, so it's an opportunity for guests on the show or presenters on the show to take a photo during the event and have that be tweeted out. So there's sponsorships of the Twitter Mirror, so that's one way that a brand can participate, but I'm sure you guys have more interesting examples of how you've leveraged it.
I would just say there's nothing interesting about just sponsoring the Twitter Mirror. It's about how does that tie into what you're doing digitally? What are you doing on air? By itself, it's a tweet, and you can go and sponsor that, but it's not going to be as interesting as if you have the full package of on-screen social, .com social, and on the social platform itself.
Yes. About the background, I don't know. Maybe Cinderella's witch was the one, or who was the one in that cartoon. I think that it has a value, and it has a value. Why? Because it really triggers a reaction on the celebrity. Before, it was kind of difficult. You had the social reporter asking something to the celebrity, taking a selfie with the celebrity. Now, by having that cute mirror, I remember the first time that we got it from, I think it was in Roland Garros, in the tennis court before come to the billboards. I was like, oh my God, these guys care about us. So we had the mirror, and I was at the beginning, I had to admit it, I was a little bit skeptical about it. It's like, what are we gonna do? It's like, and then when I saw it, and the reaction that it caused on all these top celebrities, that they all get close and they put their, it delivers a value. It forces the person to stay longer, attached longer, and to have more engagement with that cute mirror. So by having longer engagement, we can go back to the companies that they sponsor and say, hey, this is one of the values that the Twitter Mirror delivers. Also, since you are taking the tweet from a celebrity, and then the celebrity has his own handle and the hashtag official, the possibilities of that celebrity to retweet it are pretty high. So if that tweet is being branded, you are really expanding on the value of that tweet. So that's why we use it in any event, and we look for creative ways to integrate it, to amplify it, to do it, because again, once you do it as the mirror, and once they do it too, then we have to come up with something different. So it's a matter of, I will envision the Twitter Mirror a little bit bigger too. Has to span, so you can take the whole body.
Take the feedback back.
Another question coming from Twitter. Would you recommend to use Twitter to reach out to unacculturated Latinos?
So if we're thinking of unacculturated as Spanish dominant?
Yes, and 50 plus.
50 years or plus, okay. Perfect. So yes, so we, in our research, not just the research that we did from our surveys, we did find that there are users who are tweeting predominantly in Spanish. There's a percentage of them that do that exactly, just in Spanish. They follow accounts from newspapers back home. So if they're from Guatemala, they follow the Guatemalan newspaper, and that's how they stay really close to the news that's happening that in some cases may not make it to U.S. news. So they're using that to stay connected with things that are happening back home, very granular level. They're using it to stay connected with friends and family as well, just as a way to text message. They use direct message very frequently to stay connected in that way as well. So there is a population that skews older, that skews Spanish dominant, that is using it for communication and to stay close to their roots. So there's definitely that option as well.
Also, sorry, I'm gonna give her a hand too, because the problem is you have to invest short, mid, and long term. And right now, you can look at the statistics and you can probably have questions if that 50+ person is gonna be there. The more programming experiences that we build around programs like The Voice Kids and stuff like that, when the 50+ person will look at the 30+ person and say, well, but what are you doing there? I'm seeing it in my own family, like my mom is starting to say, like, but what are you guys doing? And eventually they are becoming, and wait for the 50+ person to get addicted to the platform. Because they probably arrive later, but when they start doing it, they're doing it with a lot of intensity. I don't know how many of your mom has a WhatsApp. It's terrible. Don't let her do it. But it's think about short, mid-term. What is it going to happen with the 50+? That they are probably heavy consumers of TV and they are looking at those experiences and they're missing something.
Take voting. I mean,
Yeah.
just voting shows now. I mean, there's still call-in voting. Okay, that's gonna be phased out to some degree. And I mean, there's members of my own team whose parents are asking them to set up Twitter accounts so that they can vote. For real. I love those stories. Those anecdotal, are they at scale? The data probably shows itself, but
I'll add one thing
Yeah,
in
sure,
terms
sure.
of
Yeah.
in terms of anecdotes as well. So we did ethnographies in a couple of different cities in the U.S. We actually went into people's homes, Hispanic homes, and talked to people about how they were engaging with Twitter while they were out shopping, while they were making a recipe, while they were watching TV. And one of our activities was to sit and watch a telenovela. And we had a young lady with her mom sitting on their couch watching a telenovela. The hashtag came on the screen, and the daughter, reached for her phone and started tweeting using the hashtag. And the mom looked over at her and said, hey, can you send the actress on the screen a message, ask her where she got that blouse? And she said, usa el pajarito para mandarle un mensaje. So use the little bird to send her a message. So for folks that are not on the platform yet, they definitely are seeing the value. They're missing out on voting. They're missing out on conversations. They know it's a way to connect with others, with celebrities, with people they admire. So if they're not on the platform yet, they're definitely going to be joining El Pajarito soon.
Did you want
I want to ask you something. We're from the Dominican Republic. We have a TV show, Sexual Education, and we are making this program for record. It's not alive. It's not real time. And we are uploading the program in YouTube, in our channel YouTube. And the people saw the past program, if they cannot see it in the same way that they are passing by the channel. They see it on YouTube. I want to know what's your recommendation in our case, because we don't have the program alive in real time. And we live, and we want to know if we upload the program in YouTube, it affects the program that is in the channel.
So the question is the question is if it's not a live show and you upload it on YouTube, does that affect the ratings of the live TV show?
Yes, how can we manage the social TV, the social...
David?
And is this prior
I-
prior to it being broadcast or after it being broadcast? After. Okay.
After is not going to jeopardize anything. If you didn't get it at the beginning, you're not going to get it later. What you have to start is building, if you want to call it digital or social rating afterwards. The challenge there is not, we are used to do this because our programming, it goes East time and then Pacific time. So we have to probably East time, you go live when the show is live, or sometimes the shows are pre-recorded. So you have to schedule, a different social strategy for both. The challenge that you're facing is when you're putting it on YouTube, what is happening is that you are becoming an on-demand experience, where each single individual, they are going to watch it whenever they want. So there is where it's really tricky, to deliver a good, even if you schedule some sort of social activity, it's going to be very challenging, because for me, I'm going to watch it at 2 a.m., the other person is going to watch it at 1 a.m. So I will concentrate on your social activity around the time that you air the show, because definitely that's going to help you to retain rating and probably to grow the rating because of the expansion of people promoting your show. But in the YouTube strategy, and we have our friend Juanjo over there that is an expert on that, you should deploy other type of strategy.
And you're not unique in having that issue. I mean, we have novellas on Friday nights, and we know a certain segment of our population is not necessarily home at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. They may be out, but they're big fans. So you can create appointment-based viewing. You say, we're going to do catch-up viewing the next day at noon, at 3 in the afternoon. If you're able to get talent from the show to all get coordinated, and you promote it properly, and you say, we're going to do catch-up viewing, binge viewing of this show, this episode, on this time, this date, and really get good buzz about it, then you can create within a relatively short frame period of time, everybody watching it that wants to in that catch-up experience. But you have to provide the value back to them of having access to stars they're going to tweet alongside. Otherwise, why would I view it, at this time for no other reason?
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to just let you guys say last comments to where do you see social TV going? Make it short.
I think it's going to go where the audience takes it, quite frankly, and that's simple in that it's, platforms are going to come up, they're going to rise and fall in terms of popularity, and so our ability and our interest in pulling social-based content on screen is going to depend on where the audiences choose to go. The other side of the coin is that the more that brands invest and feel that they're getting good ROI, or return on influence in what they're doing in terms of social, the more they'll be able to fund the experiments that we want to do and that we can do together with brands. So it's going to be, the two powers are going to be ultimately the audience first and foremost, and then the brands and their willingness to invest in the opportunity, because there's only so much the networks can put in against this.
So to agree with Borja, it really isn't social TV, it's just TV. That's how we think about it. It's not going anywhere. I can't now imagine watching any live show without TV, without knowing what other people are thinking, what other people are saying, the funny comments being made by another user or by a brand engaging in that conversation as well. So it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get, I think, more exciting. And for us, it's our job to work really closely with the networks to continue to innovate together and to work closely with our brands to prove ROI.
For us, it's simple. It's a common sense strategy. We are seeing the audience well receiving these products that we are building. We are seeing right now, more than ever, the advertising community saying, let's talk about social and then how we can build around it. So there is an obvious interest based on the potential reach that they can gain through a social media strategy. And then we, media companies, we are starting to invest a lot of money, time and resources on making sure that what we do is something that we can prove, we can measure, we can deliver results to our clients. We are seeing how now Social Guide, which is part of the Nielsen company, they're starting to aggregate and to deliver measurement across platforms, which is something that the advertising community has been used to use for many, many years since the beginning of TV. So it's only going to improve, and it's only going to go for more. It's up to us to really, and it's a very competitive, some sort of like a frenemy standpoint between these guys and us, and with them in sharing information. And every time that I meet with Nuria and her team, or with the Facebook team, it's about the more that you educate us about the new products that you are releasing, the better that we are going to be able to build those ecosystems with programming and the platform. And the more that we share the results with you, the better that you are going to continue to deliver and build technology that can allow us to do that. So it's a clear business. It's here for stay. It's new TV, and is evolving because all the portions that they are part of this ecosystem are evolving professionally and respectfully, towards measurement, which is something that we need to do. Is again, we are not here just to put PR releases and say how cool we are. We need to prove the results that we are developing to our partners. We are a private company. We are not a non-profit, so we have to, act like that.
Thank you. A big thank you to all our panelists, David, Borja, and Nuria. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow these guys. I'm Nick Bianchi. I'm the social media director at Boden PR. Follow us. We'll be giving updates throughout Hispanicize. And thank you for coming.